I
Yeah,
do?
no problem. Oh, seriously? Yeah, they're gonna have mics. But yes, I got you.
I'm doing great. All right.
Thanks so much for doing this.
Hey, my
At the
pleasure.
Crocodile here. We appreciate it.
Hi, good to see you. How are you? Or happy.
Super fun.
Yeah.
How are you, man? Nice to see you. How are you? How do you like it? Do you?
It's exactly what I like.
Right? It's, how long? Over a year? Yeah.
Like he's coming here the longest.
Yes, yeah. Yeah.
Never happened.
Yeah. Wow. That's great. How do they get the show on the road and then get out of the way so much? Yeah, you're right. There's a lot of people.
Ah, this is a crowd.
Good morning. Is this on? Is this on? Good morning. Ah, there we are. How's everybody today? Thank you. Thank you so much for being here. For those who I haven't had a chance to meet yet, I'm Chris Callahan, Dean of the Cronkite School. And on behalf of the faculty and staff, and of course the students, we are thrilled that all of our family members are here with us this morning. It's always one of our favorite weekends of the year when you get to come and visit your daughters and sons, and we get to meet you and tell you lies about how your students are doing. No, I'm kidding. Kidding. I can tell you if you're here, they're doing really well. So again, thank you for being here, and we have a terrific panel this morning that's going to dive into all sorts of issues on the intersection of sports and media. And I'm thrilled that Gail Rhodes, our colleague here at the Cronkite School, PhD student, is going to be our master of ceremonies here. So with that, I'll just turn it over to Gail for introductions of our panel.
All right, thank you, Dean Callahan, and what a great crowd. I'm so happy to see all of you here. Just briefly about my own self, I was a longtime sports anchor and reporter in Chicago, and I came out to Arizona about 6 years ago and started teaching here at the Cronkite School, and I love interacting with the students here, and hopefully we'll see some of you guys come through my classes. I'm at the I can't see without my glasses age, so forgive me. This is not so formal, but I want to do these guys justice, so if you bear with me, I'm going to read their bios so that we can get a full view of everything that they've accomplished so far in their careers. To my left is Bruce Cooper, sports anchor at 12 News. Bruce is 12 News' sports anchor and contributing across all shows and platforms. He also hosts the longest-running high school football show in the state, Friday Night Fever, and 12 Sports Tonight on Sunday evenings. Coop, as he is fondly called, as we all know, began working for KPNX Channel 12 in 1986 as a weekend sports editor. Throughout his career, Coop has covered some of the biggest sporting events, Super Bowls to World Series, NBA Finals to the College Football National Championship. And in 2018, he was inducted into the Rocky Mountain Emmy Award Silver Circle Society, recognizing over 25 years of excellence in broadcasting and community service. And if you don't mind me saying, he's also announced his impending retirement coming up soon after a long and distinguished career. So next we have Sarah. Yeah, welcome, Bruce. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Next we have Sarah Kezele, host of USA Today Sports Media Group. And Sarah, by the way, is the definition of a multimedia sports journalist. In the span of a few days, you might hear her on Arizona Sports 98.7 FM radio. You see her serve as an in-studio host for the Arizona Wildcats football game. Watch her report for USA Today or witness her telling a story on Pac-12 networks. She co-hosts a weekly 30-minute show for Fox Sports Arizona that dives into the Arizona high school sports scene. And in the past, she served as the West Coast Conference correspondent for Campus Insiders. When she finds the time, she also is a faculty associate here in the Cronkite News Sports Phoenix Bureau. and she graduated from the University of Arizona with a degree in journalism. I know, we love giving her a hard time.
I mean, you didn't have to say it if you didn't want to, but
Well, Doug Holler, who I'll introduce, and myself, we're Big Ten. We come from Big Ten country. I was at Illinois, he was at Indiana, but you won't hold that against us either. So thank you, Sarah, for being here. Next is Doug Holler, reporter for The Athletic Arizona. Doug covers Arizona State football and basketball for The Athletic Arizona. He previously worked 13 years at the Arizona Republic, where he covered 3 Final Fours and 4 football national championship games. He twice has been named Arizona Sports Writer of the Year. Thank you for being here, Doug. And last but certainly not least is Kasey Kaler, editor-in-chief of Ability 360. Kasey is a graduate of the Cronkite School and Gonzaga University, where she received her master's in sports and athletic administration. She develops and manages creative content and oversees the editorial direction of Live Ability magazine as the go-to disability media outlet for Arizona and beyond. She also has had stops with the Suns, Diamondbacks, and Fiesta Bowls. And Kasey, I want to say a lot of our students do a lot of work with Ability 360. I've had a lot of great stories come from there, so we thank you and your organization for that collaboration. So thank you for being here. So let's begin. Maybe I'll start with Bruce, and some of you guys can also chime in. We're always curious to know. I had a very unusual path throughout my career, and how I started and how I got to be where I was and ended up in the top 3 market of Chicago and being a sports broadcaster there. So I thought, Bruce, maybe you could share a little bit about your journey. You've been in the business a long time. Maybe you could share how you got started and how you got to be where you are today.
Okay, I'll do just that. Let me just say this. When I went to Arizona State University, the Walter Cronkite School of Journalism was located in Tempe campus, Stauffer Hall. It is nothing like it is today. And let me tell you this. When I was there and I got an internship, and look, students, let me tell you this. Don't do what I did. When I started at Arizona State University, I mean, there was a lot to do. And so as a result, maybe I didn't go to class as often as I wanted to. Let me just say that. And there became a time when I was hearing about the internship program, and I decided, hey, I want to get an internship at one of the TV stations. But one of the prerequisites Arizona State has, Walter Cronkite School of Journalism, you have to have at least a 3.0 GPA. Guess who didn't have a 3.0 GPA? So you know what that meant? That meant that I had to go to summer schools, I had to take extra classes, and I was fighting for A's. I mean, anything short of an A, I was very disappointed, and so I got lackadaisical in the beginning. So your grades matter, students. Don't fall behind the 8 ball. It took me about a little over a year to get my GPA where it should have been. And so I was able to get an internship, and that internship turned into a job. And 34 years later, I'm still at that job. Okay, so first and foremost, take care of business in the classroom. But I will say this: when I was working at Channel 12, I found out that the resources and the equipment that I was using at Walter Cronkite so antiquated, wasn't even applicable to what they did today. But parents, let me tell you this: your money's going to good work today. I mean, let me tell you something. These kids, they are so darn good. I mean, I'm jealous, to be honest with you. They are so ahead. They come into my station, and they teach me things on my computer system because everything is so applicable, and they're so advanced technologically, it's not even funny. So I want you guys to feel comfortable about that. But yeah, after my internship, they were Channel 12 was impressed with my work ethic, believe it or not. And they asked me to do a second internship, which is unusual. Usually an internship lasts 1 semester. They asked me to do a second one. At the end of that second one, they put my name down. They said, we're not letting you go. We're going to create a job for you. And so I became a part-time employee before I evolved into a full-time job. And let me say this again about Walter Cronkite School of Journalism. I think universally it's looked upon that Arizona State, Missouri, and Syracuse have one of the top journalism classes in the nation. Well, let me tell you why I think Arizona State and Walter Cronkite School separates itself from the other two, particularly in sports. At Syracuse and Missouri, they're going to cover a lot of collegiate events. Let me tell you what I see from these Walter Cronkite School students here. If I go to the Arizona Cardinals, the Arizona Diamondbacks, the Phoenix Suns, the Arizona Coyotes, those students are there. In other words, they're getting exposure to big-time athletes, and they go into these press conferences where they get local media like Sarah and Doug and some of the national media. They get to see firsthand how it's done. They don't even have to ask a question. They can just sit back and learn. Because I remember my very first interview I did was with a guy named Patrick Ewing. You know, I mean, some parents will know him, but some of these young kids probably don't know who Patrick Ewing is. And I could feel my lips trembling as I asked a question. Let me tell you something. These Walter Cronkite kids, they can come into a room with Larry Fitzgerald or Shane Doan or whatever, and I mean, they are just spot on. And to see their delivery, to see their poise, their articulation, I'm like, geez, are you kidding me? Where's this coming from? So look, you have your kids in the right place, and you'll learn about me. I talk a lot, so I'm gonna shut up and let somebody else talk.
Yeah, Dean Callahan, I think he's retiring. It might be a place for him in the development department or something. It's ringing endorsement for the Cronkite School, but all true. Doug, let me ask you, because you know, Bruce and I come from a broadcast background, and you're on the digital writing side of things. What was your path, and perhaps a typical path for those who want to be writers?
I was lucky. I kind of knew what I wanted to do early in my life. When I was in high school, I grew up in Indiana. I was going down to the local newspaper and helping out in the sports department, basically just answering the phone, taking calls, track results, which I still have nightmares about, just things like that. And then, you know, I went to school at Indiana University. Unlike Coop, I did go to class, maybe not every Friday, but most of the time. And just along the lines of what Coop was saying about the Cronkite kids and being so just better equipped than we were, you know, I covered, when I was in college, I covered the basketball team, and Bob Knight was the coach at Indiana University, probably the most intimidating person in sports. I went through a whole semester, didn't ask him one question, not one, and it was actually kind of encouraged not to. But from there, gosh, I worked in South Dakota, Illinois, Florida, and then when my wife, we were married in Florida, we wanted to come back to Arizona because it's where she's from. It's hard. She's also in this business, and it's hard to place two people in a newspaper. And they had a place for her. She was set. They didn't have a place for me, except for this bureau. They had a bureau in Scottsdale at the time. So I had to come out and I had to write a retail column for, I don't know, maybe 8 months, retail shopping. I don't shop. So if you go online, and I really wish you would not, you could probably find the world's worst retail reporting ever. I was so bad at it. But what I did is I just kind of put my head down and just bugged Paula Bowen's husband, Jay Diefenbach, who's my editor at the Athletic now, and just bugged him, and that's when the Suns were hot, and just kept on him, pitching ideas. And I think he finally just gave in and said, all right, we'll give this guy a shot, and I just kind of forced my way into the sports department. I worked in sports covering the Suns and the Cardinals and the Diamondbacks for a couple years, and then I moved to Arizona State, where I've covered them for maybe the last 10. I moved over to the Athletic a couple years ago. Do you guys know what the Athletic is? It's kind of a startup. We've been around for 3 years, but it's an emphasis on storytelling, which is kind of what I feel like I do best, kind of fits my style of beat reporting. So it's been a great 2 years. If you're not familiar with it, I urge you to check it out. Just go to theathletic.com, and it's all there.
Yeah, and we want to ask you a little bit more about the Athletic, but let me ask Kasey. So we have if you don't mind me saying, to younger panelists, maybe than at least
Thank
me
you.
for sure. So let me ask you, Kasey, since you've done all kinds of different things, content creation and even PR and those types of things, talk a little bit about, because I believe Bruce or somebody was asking me during breakfast, do all of these students want to do broadcast or journalism or writing? And I said, not necessarily. You'll find different things that you want to do. Can you speak to a little bit about the different paths that you can take?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that was something that I kind of was the same as you, Doug. And I came into journalism school here, and I knew exactly what I wanted to do. I wanted to write, and that was always my forte. And so that was what I was a emphasis on print journalism. But when I want to say my second semester here, I had an opportunity to do an internship with the Diamondbacks with their communications staff, and that was a little different. That was an opportunity for me to kind of play on the other side of things, and to kind of see, what are how do communication staff manage and kind of take care of journalists. And then I did PR for the Suns as well, and that was very different. That was not the basketball side of things. That was the business side of things. So that was very different. That was extremely out of my comfort zone. But I think I grew the most in that internship, just because that's not what I thought I wanted to do, and I was doing things that I didn't think I wanted. So, but yeah, I've played, I think, being willing to kind of take those extra steps to kind of get out of your comfort zone and just kind of try your hand on it, that plays in this market, no matter what you want to get into, marketing, journalism, PR, any of it, it all plays, so.
Mm-hmm. And Sarah, you certainly are the epitome of the jack of all trades, what we now know as multimedia journalists. Can you speak to the versatility that one might need to have in this business nowadays? I know when I was coming up in my career, it was really more narrow in scope, and I really only had to focus and worry about being good at these things. Now, you guys have to do it all. You have to even shoot your own stuff if you're in broadcast. And if you're a writer, you still have to do video and all of these things. Can you speak to that kind of skill set that you need nowadays?
Absolutely. You really need to know how to do everything. Or at least try out everything. And Doug wanted to be a writer for forever. We worked together a few years ago. Yeah, he's been writing for forever, but you also have hosted podcasts. You've also been in front of the camera doing video work. There is no such thing as just a writer or just a television host. You really have to be able to do everything, even if you just have a job at a TV station or a newspaper or a website. So versatility has really been the name of my game since day one. I graduated in 2011, and that was right when digital was really starting to take off, which I know makes me sound old, but that is when digital was starting to take off. And I have never had a job in which I just did one thing. So I have been a writer, I've been a copy editor, I've been a social media manager, I've been a television and digital video host, I've been a podcast host, I've been a video reporter out in the field, I've been in studio. There truly is nothing that I've not done in this industry. And you know what is ironic is radio is the one thing I never tried out in college. I was, unlike Coop, I was obsessive with internships and student media opportunities and going to class. And I was all over print and digital video and TV, but I never tried radio because I was like, whatever, it's dying, like not a big deal. Well, I work in radio 5 days a week now, and I never expected that. And so you really can't rule out anything. Give everything a shot and know that it is probably going to be part of your career at one point or another.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point because there's so much change happening in media and journalism, and sometimes we read about consolidation and reporters getting laid off and the business is changing. So maybe Bruce can talk to a little bit about how he's seen the business change, and I think that would then lend right into, as Sarah was talking about, on the one hand, it's changing and some things are going away. On the other hand, there's all kinds of different opportunities. How have you seen the business change?
Social media has really changed how the industry works altogether. I remember when I started out, they'd have our little meetings. Everyone gets together to discuss what they're going to cover for the day, and that included maybe some newspaper articles, some press releases, words of mouth. Well, those meetings today, one of the first things that's asked, what's trending? What's trending dictates what we would cover. And so, yes, that Sarah just talked about it a little bit. I mean, they're hiring what they call these Swiss Army knives, people that do it all, the MMJs. That's where the business is evolving. When I started, I didn't have to shoot. I didn't have to go out and do anything. I was just I started off as an editor, but I evolved to just an on-air personality. That on-air personality today has to be able to shoot, has to be able to edit, has to be able to produce their own stories. I mean, it's incredible, but I tell you what it is. It gives you a lot of versatility in terms of marketing yourself for a job. And let me just say this and jump off the track a little bit. I think two of the biggest things you can have in TV or in just media alone, credibility and trust. I'm going to share with you guys a story about this, relative to this. Our station covered we had the Charles Barkley show. And the NBA All-Star game was being played here. Now, all the biggest names you could think of, Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, Larry Bird, Kevin McHale, David Robinson, Magic Johnson, they're all here. Well, the thing you have to know about Charles Barkley, he's so unique and so different that he's so engaging with all the fans. I don't care where that All-Star game is, you can see all those big names after the East-West practice on a Saturday. They stream right to the bus. Charles Barkley doesn't. He goes to the fans. He'll take off one shoe, throw it in the crowd, take off another. He's taking pictures. He's signing autographs, blah, blah, blah. Well, here at the All-Star game here, me and my photographer, we're waiting for Charles to finish up. He's talking with a Japanese media. And so we're just waiting because we have to get elements for the Charles Barkley show, which airs every Sunday. Now, as it is today, on Saturdays, they have the East-West practice, and then later that night, they have the NBA slam dunk contest and the All-Star deal. Well, we're waiting for Charles to finish up talking with the Japanese media because he's the last All-Star on the floor. Everyone is long gone. Charles talks with everyone. And so from behind me, there was a white gentleman that said, yeah, Charles, I see we're on that CP time. Now, that meant colored people time, which means you're running late. So Charles says, you see, that's why I hate white people. You're all pushy. And so obviously they knew each other, they're having fun, blah, blah, blah. Well, the next day, Sunday morning, I'm at the station getting some things done because the All-Star game would be played about 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Well, my assignment editor asked me, hey, Coop, you guys were out at the East-West practice yesterday, right? I said, yes, we were. He says, do you guys have that sound where Charles Barkley says he hates white people? And I'm like, oh, my gosh. So I had to give them the context of the story. Well, when the NBA playoffs took place that year, and it was ESPN that had reported this now, gave that headline, Charles Barkley, every time he saw an ESPN mic in front of his face, he stopped talking. And he would tell the reporter, no offense, but your company screwed me. And they knew what it was all about. So Charles got back at the company. Now, he eventually dropped that stance, but he made his feelings felt. Someone in your company thought it was more important to give a headline to try and boost themselves as opposed to just staying with the story. So never, ever, ever compromise a story to elevate yourself, because that's all they were looking for. They were looking for a headline, and it was so wrong. That has stuck with me and resonated with me throughout my career. I will never, ever. And to this day, I can show you my cell phone. I have Charles Barkley's cell phone, Larry Fitzgerald, Shane Jones. People trust me. They will share with you their personal information, and they'll talk with you. But if you try to compromise your ethics for a story, you've blown any chance you have at earning anyone's trust or credibility.
Yeah, I think that's a good point with the way things have evolved with social media. There's the temptation to tweet and get the story out there, or have attention-grabbing headlines, those types of things. So Here at the Cronkite School, we talk about all kinds of these issues. We also, talk about advanced topics. We have an ethics and diversity class. Come see me for the ethics and diversity class, where we can discuss these types of things and all types of things that are now with sports reporting, that it's not just games. There's athlete activism out there, and so we're not afraid to help guide our students through some of these touchy subjects and what you may come across in your reporting. Interesting, the evolution, though, too, of newspapers. We hear a lot about staff being laid off newspapers. Even just 10 years ago, everything was going shorter and shorter and shorter. You used to write 1,000 words, then it was 500, then you were down to 200. And now the Athletic comes along, and our students are actually very well read, and they are big on the Athletic. I love reading the Athletic. Why do you think long-form journalism and writing has found a market again when everything was going shorter and shorter and shorter?
That's an interesting question. When I was in newspapers, I remember sitting through meetings about this very topic and having the metrics on the board of how long people spend on one story, how far they read, and the whole emphasis is we got to make it shorter. We got to get right to the point, short, and that's it. And if you think about it, that does make sense, because when people want to figure out what they read, they're on their phones, they're just scrolling. The challenge is to make them stop. Like, whoa, what's this? I need to click on this. And then once they click on it, to read it. I always thought, I understand the method behind that, the reasoning behind that, but I always thought it was a little bit backwards. I always thought there should have been more emphasis on finding stories that make people want to stop, make people want to read. And that's not easy, and it takes resources, but mostly it takes time. And I think that's what the Athletic kind of figured out, that, maybe we don't need to put up a story 3 times a day on one beat. Maybe we can free up our reporters to find a topic that's interesting, that will that they're curious about, that other people will be curious about, and let's see how that goes. And it's worked out well for them, because that, to me, that's the most challenging part of our business right now, is just to make people slow down and stop on their phones and click on something and read it. Because, and if you think about it, I get that people, when you're on your phone, your attention's going a million different directions, but movies aren't getting any shorter, books aren't getting any shorter. So the difference, I think, is you just have to, it mostly comes down to ideas, and we're probably going to talk about this a little bit more, but if someone asks me, what are the 2 things that you need, and this goes across all of our platforms up here, we're all in different levels of journalism. The 2 things that you need most, the backbone of what you're going to do no matter which field in journalism you go into, one is reporting. It's not enough just to have an opinion. When I grew up, when I first started, I thought if you wrote well, you're set. Just put a clever lead on it, throw in a bunch of quotes, you're good. Just wait for the Pulitzer Committee to call. Reporting, that's going to be the number one thing. The second is good ideas. No matter what you do, if you have good ideas, no matter if it's in broadcasting, PR, any sort of journalism, that's going to separate you, and that has value. That's going to keep you in this field.
And I'm noticing the time, and we want to open up to questions from you guys. Maybe 1 minute briefly, if Sarah and Kasey, you can speak to, because you've had different paths and different types of jobs, the importance of relationships and networking, and how I got here to there, and that led me to this. Maybe Kasey, you can go first, and then Sarah.
Okay, and I think that was definitely why in journalism school, why I did so many internships. I was so invested in knowing the right people and having the right connections and showing those people that I can own it and kind of kick butt. I think we can talk about the obvious here. I'm in a wheelchair, so I kind of felt like I had to outwork those around me. And I think that showed in my internships. I think, those were people who I still am in contact today, 4 or 5 years later. Those are still connections. Those are still people who I interact with on a day-to-day basis, and so that to me was one of my main focal points when I came to journalism school, is how can I make as many connections, meaningful connections, as possible.
Yeah, same here. Networking has been everything. I've had quite a few jobs since I've graduated, because I'm a freelancer and because I've bounced around a little bit, but I cannot name one single job that I have gotten that I didn't know somebody there or wasn't connected to somebody there somehow. Truly, every single job I've had. So knowing somebody really is a huge deal when you are looking for jobs. And networking, I feel like when I talk to younger people about networking, or even people my age who find it to be a hassle, networking isn't, I'm gonna send a formal email to somebody I respect and just say hello to them. No, it's making friends with people you respect and with other people in the industry that you can learn from. It's reaching out, genuinely curious about what they do, how they got there, how they became so good at their job, and really just look at it as making friends in your industry who also will have the power and the connections to help you along in the industry the same way people before them helped that person out.
And I'll just add to that, it's also a small world. You never know when that person you worked with 10 years ago is in a different position in a different place that you may want to work.
A painfully small world sometimes, so don't burn those bridges, people.
Yeah.
Do not do it.
Networking also comes into play when you're trying to cover a breaking news story.
Oh, yeah.
You know, so your sources, everything that you've cultivated along those times, you know, they help you out.
All right, we want to open it up to you guys for questions, so please feel free to ask our panel anything that you want to know. Nope. There we go. Yep. She'll bring you a microphone. Sorry, we gotta. There we go.
I'd like to ask Sarah. So you've said you've made a lot of connections to get a lot of jobs, and you said you've had a lot of different. Well, you've covered a lot. Sorry, the echo is confusing me. How much is what you've pitched? How much of the jobs that you've done is what you've pitched to other people, and how much of people now coming to you because they know your reputation as she's someone who knows how to do that or could try anything?
That's a great question. I've pitched myself quite a lot and have found many opportunities just from letting somebody know, hey, I'm available and I know how to do this and I'm interested. 2 years ago, I moved back to Phoenix from San Francisco. I moved back here without a single job. Personal reasons. He's over there. Hi, Jordan. And I moved back here. I grew up in Phoenix, went to school in Tucson, so I had some connections here from my high school and college days, but moved back here just with the attitude, like, I'm gonna make this happen. And I have. Over the last 2 years, I've picked up jobs in digital media, radio, local television, doing some writing, and it's all because I just put my nose to the grindstone and sent out all of the emails, made all of the phone calls, and said, hi, I'm here, I'm available. Here are all the things that I'm able to do. But to answer the second part of your question, I am at the point in my career finally where people are starting to approach me and say, hey, we saw you did such a great job with this. We would like to bring you on for that. I would, if I were to put a percentage on it, I would say probably 70% of the work I do is work that I have gone out and found on my own, and probably about 30% is people coming to me now, which is awesome.
Don't be shy. There we go.
Yeah, we're
Okay.
interesting,
Yeah.
you guys.
Oh, I thought you were easy. Oh, sorry. False alarm. Anyone?
Hi. I was wondering if you could speak to the issue of artificial intelligence and how you imagine that integrating into the profession, both from how it can benefit you and also what challenges you see journalists facing with respect to that.
Doug, you want to take that one?
Okay, as far as, okay, what do you mean as far as artificial intelligence?
Well, I mean, just in terms of computer-generated data created, perhaps even at some point an artificially intelligent journalist writing or preparing different media, how that might play.
Yeah, I remember at some point in my career, there was a program that you just would come back, you cover a game, you put in the stats, and it would write the story, the game story, and it was absolutely terrifying to know that kind of stuff existed. Yeah, that's going to continue. They're going to be, I think the media that we know it today is going to be different, and you used to be able to say it's going to be different in 20 years. It's going to be different in 5 years. And it's just going to be how everybody up here, everyone out there adjusts to it. I did not go to school at all to do anything in front of a camera. And then when I got here, I worked with Sarah, I worked with Bruce. If you go to YouTube, there's actually some bloopers of my stand-ups on television. Bruce, you're in that as well. So, yeah, that's a difficult question to answer just because there's so much unknown about what's going out there. I think, as I said earlier, I think the only thing that doesn't change is your ideas, your creativity. And I've always said this, being creativity is just like any other skill. It's a muscle. You have to exercise it. There are ways to do that. Even if you don't think of yourself as a creative person, you can practice it and you can become creative.
I know that in the television business, they're talking about, robots running the cameras. You won't have the technical crew maybe as much. I don't know if that's coming into play at your station at all, but that was something we were worried about. Some of the studio crew being replaced with robots who are running the cameras and some of the technical things. There are drones out there now that are helping with reporting. Some of that is a good thing. I think a lot of the technology and some of that stuff can be scary in the sense that we really have to verify information now more than ever to make sure that things aren't inaccurate or wrong. So.
And just to change the subject a little bit, because I know, sometimes trying to ask questions, you don't feel comfortable asking that. You'd rather ask it privately, one-on-one. I get all that, but let me just say this. You students here, incoming freshmen, you are in a absolutely great place. I promise you. And here's the deal. Don't wait till you get, because I've run across interns that their senior year, they may come up and they have an internship at our station. I'll ask them, okay, what is it that you aspire to be? You want to be in front of the camera, behind, what do you want to do? Well, I think, they think they want to be. Look, that person's already behind the 8 ball. In this media world, you need tape. I don't care if you want to be a photographer, if you want to be a producer, a director, a reporter, an anchor, you need tape. You need to be able to show what you can do. This isn't a job where you can go off the street and fill out an application and get a job. No. If you want to be a photographer, that news director wants to see your work. If you want to be a producer, they want to see your work. They want to see your work, and I want to tell you here, and this is no joke, I am just so overwhelmingly impressed with the talent that comes out of this university. Matter of fact, we hired a producer. He's one of our top producers now. The guy graduated from Arizona State in 2015. We have 7 reporters at our shop who graduated at Arizona State University. We have a couple anchors who graduated at Arizona State working at our shop. Phoenix is like a top 10 market, people. I mean, look, you guys are in the right spot, but you know what? You have to put in the work. You better get that tape ready to send out. You can't wait till your last year and say, I think. I'm just giving you some advice going forward, all right?
More questions?
Actually, piggybacking off of that, the awesome thing about it being 2019 and your cell phones, if you want a podcast, you can do that on your phone. If you want to be a TV anchor or host or reporter, you can do that on your phone. If you want to write, you can do that on your laptop. There is nothing in this industry that you can't already do with just your cell phone, which is insane. So if you want to just practice, maybe you don't publish anything, maybe you don't share it yet because you're not comfortable, that's okay too. But you can start practicing today and start honing those skills over the next 4 years. And that's something that we didn't all really have the liberty to do because, well, I guess I had a cell phone, but it didn't feel like that fancy where I was like, ooh, I could, the barrier of entry doesn't exist anymore. it still did a little bit.
Well, technology has been incredible. When when I was in the business, we couldn't go live from many places because you needed a satellite truck and you needed all kinds of things. And I went to the Dominican Republic to go to interview Sammy Sosa, and I couldn't go live with it. And then it evolved. We had these backpacks that we had that could send out live signals, and we could go live with just these little backpacks. And we thought that was cool. Well, we took a group of students to Scotland for the British Open, and we were doing a live shot back here to Cronkite with the cell phone. And I was actually dumbfounded. I'm like, I can't believe we've come this far that we can just do a live shot from Scotland over here with our cell phone. So it's been amazing.
Yeah, it is crazy. And I want you to know, parents, they have their own TV station here. They do a newscast every freaking day here. You can get a tape together. I mean, you learn so much here. So I just want these parents to leave here knowing that their kids are in a great place, but your kids actually, your child has to put in the work. It's just not going to be handed to them. But the resources are here, the teaching's here, and they do a great job of reaching back and bringing in certain media people here to add to their expertise to help cultivate the learning process here. But yeah, I would never have given a glowing report for Arizona State Walter Cronkite School of Journalism based on what my experience was, but now based on what I see and what I see come through my building and what's out there, oh yeah, I'll give it.
We only have a couple of minutes left, so please, question in the back. We wait for a microphone will come. Sorry, hang on 1 second. Yeah, you can project. Good.
Other than working hard and making sure you make the good grades and going to class every day, what is one thing that each of you might give your freshman self as a piece of advice moving forward to make sure that you do get where you want to be?
Kasey, let's start with you, and we'll come down the panel. And
Yeah, absolutely. I think the thing that I struggled with as a freshman was feeling like I belonged in the room. That was something that I had to teach myself is I am just as talented, I'm just as good of a storyteller, I belong in this room, so I'm gonna go out and get the best story that I can.
Doug? Oh, sorry, I'll just go down the line. Doug, go ahead.
Yeah, just piggybacking off of that, just, if you're a member of the media, if you're in college, a student or whatever, you have every right to be there as anyone else. I would just just like I said, get involved as soon as you can in what you think you might want to do. You can always change, but get involved, start forging your career path. Don't wait until after you graduate. Start moving that direction as early as you can. And as Sarah has talked about, just broaden your skills as much as possible, because like I said earlier, you just don't know where this industry is going to be in a few years.
Yeah. What I would have told my freshman self is don't think that you can't change your mind about what you want to do. I came into college thinking I wanted to be a local television reporter. My idea of what I've wanted to do and what I have done has changed so many times since then. And give yourself the permission to explore different things. Nobody is holding you accountable. If you want to go from local TV to print writing to digital hosting, allow yourself to explore that and don't feel like you've failed because you no longer like the thing that you thought you were going to do forever.
All right, Bruce.
My advice is patience for freshmen. You may come in and you think you want to have it right now. It doesn't happen that way. You have seniors in this journalism class. You have juniors, sophomores. There is a certain time period that has to take place, an experience that has to take place, some prerequisites that have to be met that take place. So patience, but more than anything, an internship. I think an internship eventually is where you need to go. They have internships will go to the Diamondbacks, the Suns, the Coyotes, the Cardinals, the newspapers, the radios, TV. there is your opportunity. You have a foot in the door. And I promise you, and I can speak for our television station. I know other TV stations do likewise. These interns, they'll go out on stories with us. We will allow them to do their stand-ups, allow them to do interviews, just get more experience out there. And you have to make an impression. If I didn't make an impression, I wouldn't have the job I have today. You have to get an internship. I think that's a great way to go, but you have to show patience as a freshman. It's not going to be it's not going to come like that, all right? And just do. If you're having a bad day, if you don't think things are going well, there's always tomorrow. Okay?
All right. Thank you, everyone, and thank you to our panel. Great discussion this morning, so thank you.
Thank you, Gail, and thanks to these great panelists. What a fantastic way to start off the day. Thank you guys so much for coming. I hope everybody will stay. There's still more food. We're going to have football on the big screen. Sparky, where are you? Sparky's here somewhere. And there's Sparky. And the photo booth, please take advantage of the photo booth with your family and friends, and enjoy the rest of Family Weekend. Thank you for being here.